Welcome to the Troubled Artists Podcast, Episode 25, Cameron Smith.
Welcome back to the Troubled Artists Podcast. Today I am here with Cameron Smith. Over the years, Cameron Smith has used comedy, music, and film as ways to process life and connect with people in a real, unpolished way. His latest project, The Loneliest Boy on Earth, emerged from that same impulse. Part experiment, part professional confession, and part attempt to make sense of love and identity in the modern world. So Cameron, thank you so much for being on the show. So before we begin, I do like to ask this question. Tell us in your own words, who is Cameron Smith?
Well, thank you for having me, Caesar. I I mean, in the vein of this podcast, I would say Cameron Smith is indeed a troubled artist in many ways. I feel that I really got into art at an early age, and I feel like even in the earliest stages, it was somewhat of a place I would go because I would struggle in my relationships. I think I particularly would have crushes or unrequited love, and it would be very painful to me. And I feel like if I didn't do anything, I would just sit in those really uncomfortable feelings where, I mean, it just feels like your mind is on fire. And the only way, like, I didn't really, I wasn't aware of this when I was younger and making art and stuff, but in hindsight, I realized the only way I ever got out of it was I would put my mind and attention on a creative project, even if it was like really stupid and pointless. It was certainly something that was productive, and that gave me a peace from, I guess, just feeling lonely and unloved and unwanted.
How did you get into acting and storytelling? Was it something that you discovered like early in life or later on in life? Just why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's actually funny because they kind of both go exactly hand in hand. When I was really young, I mean, I feel like somewhere between age 5 and 10, I was living in Greensboro, North Carolina, and there's like a downtown arts district. And my mom, for whatever reason, had signed me up for these drama classes. I don't know if I was expressing interest in them or she just threw me in there. But I remember doing these improv exercises with like the teacher/counselors where they would kind of, ask everyone, okay, let's get a name, let's get an animal or something. And I ended up getting cast in this improv sketch as this character called Captain Tuna Fish. And my brain exploded with ideas for this character. I loved that I got cast as this, and I entered the role and I had so much fun doing it. But you know how these improv exercises go. Once that sketch is done, it's done. Like, we move on and invent new things for the rest of the classes. But next time I got thrown out there, was like, I want to be Captain Tuna Fish again. And the teacher's like, no, we're past that. And so that's what I mean. Like, I was already kind of training to act at an early age, but because of that resistance to the explosion of ideas in my mind by, like, the people that are really running the show, that made me go, well, I want to it like put this desire in me to make my own stories and to create my own characters and to take productions like this in the way that I want them. But it really wasn't for maybe another several years that I had a friend that had a video camera, and he just like kind of threw out the idea, hey, maybe we like make some videos, and that the explosion went off again. And it was like, yes, yeah. And then I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do. And then I, within a year, asked my grandparents to get me a video camera. And then I started making my own stuff at like 11 years old. And ever since then, I've just, as a young child, not doing this consciously, thinking like, yes, I'm an artist and I'm creating things. I just had this just innate drive to just make these things, and I just wouldn't stop. I just loved doing it, and I loved hanging out with my friends and that being what we did together.
Before we get into the struggles, I do want to point out some of the highlights that you've had in your career. So why don't you talk about just those particular highlights that you've had so far in your filmmaking and acting career?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't even know if I would refer to what I've had as really a career, because this has never really been something that I've made a living off of. I've always kind of had to do a normal person job to make money. And then all this stuff just stays hobby. Sometimes, I get some money back, but I'm mostly spending a hell of a lot more than I'm making off of it. And that's just, the reality of not being a famous artist. But I do have moments that I do look back at very fondly, that were just like really interesting and unique. Like to me, I was around 2014. I guess I was like in my first or second year of college, and I was in film school at University of North Carolina in Wilmington. And there's also the Cucaloris Film Festival here in Wilmington, and I think it was my first year that I got in. I got in for a music video, and I got to perform as my rap character, Camboy Smith, at their like visual sound wall DJ VJ show. And because I was in, I got the Pegasaurus pass, like the full pass to the festival, and they gave me like 3 more so I could bring friends with me. And so I got to bring a lot of my buddies from high school that I like made all these stupid sketch comedy videos on YouTube. And I just remembered one of the events was like a midnight brunch on this big yacht in the riverfront. So we were just sitting on this big yacht at this like kind of ballroom table together, eating chicken and waffles with these passes. And I was just like laughing about how funny it was about like, dude, think about the stupid shit that we make, and this is what we're getting to do because of it. So there was that. And I think that same year at the festival, they had this challenge called the 10 by 10 challenge, where they take 10 local filmmakers and partner them with 10 local businesses. And then the festival, which is, about 4 or 5 days long, they give you those days. You have this many days to make a video for that local business. And then on Sunday, the last day of the festival, we screen all your little films back to back in like a last screening. And mostly what everyone does, all the filmmakers will make a documentary spotlight type video. It's like, 3 to 5 minutes of just like, hey, this is what the business is. Here's some talking heads of them and some B-roll of how things go and blah, 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 blah. They're all like, it's, 10 videos and they're almost all that. Yeah. Mine was the one that was just this weird sketch comedy video, and it was for the Elsewhere Art Museum in Greensboro. And I was having such a hard time with my meeting with them figuring out like how to even create a video for their business, because their business is just art. Like, come in and experience it. And the people were like that. They were like, we don't really have a mission statement. We want people to come see it. But other than that, and so like I was just trying to go through their stuff, and on their website, they had a video that they made that was just a sketch comedy video, and they were just making food puns. Like the whole thing was just like this dramatic sketch short film that like was just fueled by food puns in the dialogue. So I was making like, gritty and like offensive sketch comedy videos. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do my spin of this food pun dramatic video. And I had some of my comedian friends. We met up in a day, shot this thing. And so in the middle of this, like, kind of boring documentary spotlight showcase, you watch about 4 or 5 of those. And then right in the middle, there's just this thing with like people deep throating bananas and like throwing up and shitting. And like, it's just this nasty, wild thing. And it's not telling you anything about any business. Like the museum isn't even mentioned. And so I remember at the end of, and this is like a Sunday in the middle of the day screening, like there's families here, and it's this nice theater. Like it's so out of place. And then at the end, they call all the filmmakers and like, business heads like up to the stage, and we do a Q&A. And the first guy's like, all right, anybody have any questions? One hand shoots up, and this guy goes, what the hell was that banana video? And so like the reason why I highlight this as a really fond memory for me is because the way my art is, it'd be one thing if I were at like this wild comedy festival and just showing my thing among things that are like it. But my favorite experiences are showing or like getting to present or express my art at places where it's so out of place and so unexpected. And like as a stand-up comedian, like that's kind of a similar thing. Like the open mic with a bunch of amateur comics, they're all kind of doing the same thing and same vibe, but I would go up there and I would do something that, like, even if it wasn't good, it would definitely like horrify people. And that would be what they're thinking about at the end of the night. And so that's why I think in my comedian friend group, I often would hear like, you're less of a stand-up comedian, you're more of a performance artist. And I kind of agree with that statement. Like I can do conventional stand-up and I have done it quite a bit, but I really enjoy like creating the meta experience of like people looking across the room and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like people loving it and laughing their ass off and looking across and seeing someone scowling and, you know, crossing their arms and getting ready to walk out. Like I like creating those experiences. I feel like I made a note of maybe one more thing I would consider a highlight. Yeah, I think that's probably the most interesting story I have. Other than that, when I graduated college in 2018, I immediately moved to Los Angeles, and I only spent like maybe 9 months living there before I decided this is not for me and came right back to North Carolina. Around halfway through my time there, I was mostly doing a lot of acting gigs to stay afloat. Like it was mostly background work, just to make money. But one of them, there's this show on the E! Network called Dating No Filter, and I got cast to go on like a reality TV dating show for this thing. And that my experience on that show kind of created the seed for this idea of the loneliest boy on earth, which, you know, 4 years after that, 3 or 4 years after that is when I really had the idea. I don't talk about this part very much when I talk about the origins of this idea, but I was in the mountains on a trip with a couple of my friends, and like it was just my friend and his girlfriend, and it was just late night. They were all drunk and on coke, and I was just stone cold sober, just sitting there talking to them. And they were just talking about me being on that dating show. And then I was like, we were tossing around ideas like, okay, well, I make films and stuff. What if I made my own documentary with that same format, but like I'm in control of the production while also being the one on the date? And just, I think that like Nathan Fielder-esque meta humor where like you're watching him do these like interactions with real people, but also he is controlling the entire production. So it just adds this kind of implied layer of like ominousness to it, that I was like, yeah, I think that would work really nicely with this sort of dating show format. And I marinated on that idea for maybe another year or so before the rehearsal came out, and I watched that. And that was what, like, it finally clicked with me in a way. It's like, oh, okay, I know how I'm making this now. I know what I'm doing.
You know, we've all had moments like that. And I was just wondering if you could talk about like those sort of struggles that you faced so far in your creative career, and just how you've sort of been combating those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the number one sort of pervasive thing that is at the bottom of all of it is, like I've said, I have a lot of subjective success in terms of like being happy with what I make and maintaining artistic and creative integrity. Like those are really important to me, and like that's something that, you know, can't be taken from me. But in terms of like objective, tangible, and measurable success, not very much. And that is a struggle because, you know, the ideal is for this to be what you do for a living and to not have to do a normal person job. So maintaining artistic integrity and creative freedom while also making a lucrative career out of it are the odds are extremely low of making that work. It's not impossible. Plenty of people do it, but the odds for everyone trying to do it, they're low. And that's a tough reality. And it makes, it creates a lot of doubt, and it creates a lot of pressure to just give up and quit every step of the way. But I think I'm never going to quit, even if I'm doing it this way until I'm 90, because I know that I would rather be dead. So I have to make art, and hopefully one day I can put myself in the ideal position. But even if I don't, just the striving forward for that is enough for me. I've sort of existentially made that decision long ago. But rather than being super general, I'll be a little more specific about maybe more personal struggles, or struggles that are unique to my journey. But I mean, like I said, I've done a lot of offensive comedy. So like I've been banned from certain venues. I've kind of blackballed myself a little bit between comedians that don't quite get what I'm doing, or like bookers and venue owners. I actually really haven't done stand up too much in the last year or two, but that's, on one hand, it's lack of interest in where like the town I'm in. Doing stand up around here just has lost its appeal to me. And also I've spent the last 3 years working on this documentary, which is a massive project. The two and two together are really more of an explanation why I haven't been involved with stand up so closely the past 2 years. Other than that, like, I mean, I've had just, controversy around things that I have made. Like, I mean, as early as the teachers discovering my cartoons in middle school. I mean, they were like South Park, but more gross and sexual. And so like they're calling my parents and trying to get me to delete them from YouTube. My mom knows about them and doesn't care. And she's just like, what does this have to do with school? And they're like, I guess nothing. And like, can you get them to take them down? She's like, no. And so like that moment for me, I will say it probably belongs in the highlight reel, but like where my mom kind of stood up for me, and she's impartial to my art. Like she doesn't love it, she doesn't watch everything. If I force her to watch something, she will, but otherwise she kind of just like she lets me go and doesn't involve herself very much. And I think that's probably for the best considering the content of a lot of my stuff. But one thing I was thinking about specifically of a struggle that is quite significant to me, and I think you'll appreciate this story since your background is film. But I've historically operated as like, I want to strip the crew and set down to the bare minimum as much as possible. I like working with natural light. I do not like bringing lights on the set. I like using, to this day, I have nice mirrorless cameras, but I love this Sony Handycam. Like I love using that. It is like a fifth limb to me. But, at the same time, every once in a while I get interested in making a more conventionally polished film. And around 2020, I was setting out to do that. I had this feature-length, like anti-romantic drama I was trying to make called Black Hole. Same thing with the stripped-down crew. I also really prefer working with friends and people I know. Non-actors are amazing. I love casting people I know that have never acted before. Like, no, trust me, I know how to direct you. I will make you look good. You'll know what you're doing. And they're usually a lot more humble and like so much more receptive to feedback and don't have any sort of ego about direction. Like, I don't know if you've had that experience or how many times you've tried to work with non-actors, but I really love them. And I've also worked with a handful of great actors that also like are don't have an ego, are great with direction, and also just very talented and good at what they do. But I was trying to cast real actors, like professionals, with this one, and I flew an actress out from LA to come play this role, and we had like a 4 or 5 day shoot with her. And all my interviews with her and like auditions, I suppose, were over FaceTime, and we got along very well. And I was really excited to work with her, and she seemed really excited about the script and the characters and all that. And then she got here and she was stereotypical LA diva. And like did not understand the independent film set and like did not understand like indie art really. Like there was just so many things that she like questions and qualms that she had that like just kind of baffled me. And also like I was patient and I would like give her answers, and I tried really hard to like make her comfortable and like feel free and not so much pressure, and like get her to kind of just relax. This is art. This is supposed to be fun. But I think she came from this kind of hostile environment where she's got to like watch her back and, you know, make sure she's not like getting taken advantage of or looking stupid or anything like that. And I just don't think she was able to give me the kind of trust you need when making art in this sort of like stripped down way. And yeah, we just butted heads, and I've never had an experience even remotely close to that. Like I have almost always figured out a way to have fun with anyone I've brought onto a set, and I just could not do it with her, and that was just a failure on my end. And like if I had the money and I could go honestly, money or not, if I could put the brain I have right back in myself in 2020 doing that, I think maybe halfway through that production I would have been like, all right, let's pack it up, you're fired. So I'm gonna hire someone else. This sucks. Like I really would have had to fire someone for the first time in my life. But I didn't do that, and but I learned a lot from that failure. Really, like it caused a lot of post-event rumination and like reconsidering. Like, okay, there's only so much control I had in that, so much I could do, and yeah, I'm getting PTSD just thinking about it. But yeah, I think really what I want to wrap that story up by saying is that trust in the creative process is very, very important. And having an environment that feels like friends hanging out, making art is super important to me. I'm not interested in creating a professional film set. And that's why I avoid the extra, like the super polished, stylized lighting, is because that will make it so that it takes a shoot that could be done in about 2 or 3 hours, take 8 to 12. Mm-hmm. And you can get some really beautiful shots there. But for me personally, it sucks the energy out of the performances and like us kind of being in a flow and a vibration of like we're living the story that we're telling here. Like we are actually like, because otherwise it feels very mechanical, and it feels like, all right, we're doing this tiny little sliver here and we're going to polish it. And otherwise, like doing the kind of guerrilla style thing, the actors get to like embody and be uninterrupted for much of the process. And I just, my style, I just prefer that.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. You know, like I just had my camcorder, just continued to build up, and then I used like this DSLR, started going from there, and then eventually I have like that Blackmagic camera there. So yeah, I just continued to just sort of build my way up, but at the same time, I'm taking in like the feedback from other, like my other filmmaking friends, or like even like audiences feedback. You can't constrict yourself to like the script all the time. Like, oh no, it has to be this way. You have to say the line like this. Like you have to.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say on that note, like even with me, there are certain projects where the script, one, might not even exist. There's ones where the script exists, but we do not need to follow it. It's really just an outline. But then there's ones like the Black Hole one I was mentioning, like that script was written kind of like rock solid. Like, no, we're following this to a T. There might be little room for like, we'll find something better here in the scene, but it's a very subtle drama. So like depending on the project, sometimes the script is more or less important, particularly with actors in the first take. There are so many times where they do something on the first take, and then I'll go director trying to shape it for the next few takes to shape it to something specific. And then in editing, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all those takes. And I'm like, no, that first one was it. The first one before I interfered, that's the best one. And I don't see it until the edit.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've had moments where, yeah, like I'll do like multiple takes of something, 4 or 5 takes or whatever, and then I end up using, like you said, just like that first take. I do want to talk, and ask like if there's any advice that you would like to give to any up and coming artist or filmmaker out there that's listening in on this podcast.
I certainly would echo a lot of the same things about just get started on doing something, like don't use excuses like you don't have time or the right equipment. And certainly don't fall into any sort of overbearing perfectionist mindset. Like it's okay to push it to make it better and all that. But, perfect is a subjective construct, and some of us have ideas of perfection that will prevent us from ever putting anything out. So I would definitely say getting a thing made, getting it out, and moving on to the next thing should be more of a priority than 100% perfection. I could have just left that sentence imperfect, but I went back and I edited. The other thing I say is artistic integrity. Like, it's very important that if you are making something that is meant to express something that maybe you can't even articulate, but you are using whatever medium you're operating in to attempt to articulate it, it's very important that you maintain the integrity of your process. And you do not allow influences like money or difficult collaborators to, or paranoid collaborators to get in the way of you expressing the art that you are setting out to express. I say this from more of an altruistic standpoint. So, that this is really kind of a caveat. Like if you are an ideas person and you have an idea that you are trying to bring to life through technical skills, holding integrity for that idea over your own sort of maybe your own and other people's egos. The idea is more important, I think, is what I'm getting at here. There's I think there's just like a huge pressure to make things go viral. There's a huge pressure to make things more digestible to a society that has become like collectively diagnosed with ADHD. And so everyone's trying to give you pressure like, oh, this needs to be more fast paced. This, you need to clean up the language here a little bit. You need to bring it to the surface and whatnot. And I just, I feel like we're losing a lot of depth in our art at large because of these pressures. And so I really am trying to encourage creators at large to, resist the temptations of immediate gratification in this field and prioritize making good art over that, because I think one day the tides will shift. I think people will go back to desiring depth in art and will be sick and tired of shallow, repetitive garbage. And it will not be what is going viral anymore.
At the moment, is there any projects that you have in the works? Any like return to going back to stand up, or any like films that you have in the works, or just anything that that comes to mind right now?
Yeah, I am just wrapping up this documentary series, The Loneliest Boy on Earth. It's on my YouTube channel for free. It's like a long form documentary narrative hybrid I've spent the last 3 years making. If you go to theloneliestboyonearth.com, it'll link you to it. Or if you just search The Loneliest Boy on Earth on YouTube, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Smith Films. Those are all ways to get to it. The first episode is a 2.5 hour feature film. And then after that, the episodes range from like 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And I just put out the 7th episode last night. So yeah, they're new, and I'd say my best work yet, my most complicated work. It's it's very entertaining, but also real and deep, and blurring the lines of reality and cinema in a way that are a little bit scary, and might end up getting me sued. Um, no joke. Yeah. But I don't know. I haven't been officially served with anything yet. All there is just kind of buzz in the background right now. So, we'll see what happens there. I definitely recommend checking that out. That was such a strange and crazy experience making that, and it took a lot out of me. But I'm happy to be where I am now. I have one more episode to make, the 8th episode, which will be a feature length one like the first one, and it'll probably take me another year to make. But yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Troubled Artists podcast. Have a great day.